So this is how you convert a single player game for Night of the Dead into a multiplayer game of Night of the Dead. First thing is you have to go into Steam and disable the cloud backup system. So find Night of the Dead in your Steam library, right click on it, go to properties, and then under the updates tab there is a checkbox here that says enable Steam cloud synchronization for Night of the Dead. You want to uncheck that. The reason why you need to uncheck it is because if you don't and you make changes to your files through the operating system, which is what we're going to do, Steam will automatically overwrite and bring those files back from the cloud. So you need to uncheck this before you do this process. Now that that's taken care of, I'm just going to load up a single player game from scratch just to show everyone that that this is a brand new game and kind of identify that I'm not doing any tricks. So I loaded up the game. I'm going to get a couple of things and just build a basic foundation. I'll speed up the video here so you guys don't have to watch it. There, that's basically proof that I've created a single player game that I am going to convert into a multiplayer game. What you need to do is you need to create a shell multiplayer game, which is we're going to use a little bit later on. You don't have to do anything with this multiplayer game. It does have to be a shell. One thing to note is that if you wanted to play a different character, like man, woman, whatever, you will end up with this next character in the multiplayer version of your single player game. So I purposefully selected a different character just to illustrate that that is what is going to happen. So as soon as I launch into the multiplayer game, I'm just going to right away save it, and I'm just going to call it multiplayer shell. And then exit to the desktop. Okay, so now that we're at the desktop, you need to go to your run box. You can get here quickly by pressing the Windows and holding down the Windows key and pressing the letter R. And you need to go to your app data folder, which as you can see, you can get there by pressing the percent symbol, so that's Shift 5, the word app data, and then another percent, just like you see here with no spaces or anything like that. Once you're in the app data folder, you want to go back to the root of the app data folder, as I've indicated up at the top of the window, and then go to the local folder, the LF folder, and then the saved folder. I always make a backup copy just in case I screw something up. I can always restore the information. And now I'm going to open up the single player file in a separate window. Right click, open in separate window. So you'll see that there's a number of files that are very similar in both of them. One's for multiplayer, one's for single player. I always delete the slot file, in the existing single player game. And then what you do is you match each file one at a time. You copy one file over at a time, and you copy the name. I'm pressing Control C to copy the name of the file, and then I'm renaming it to old. So this is in the multiplayer shell, and then you paste the file from the original. So again, you copy from the single player game over to the multiplayer shell, then you copy the name of the multiplayer, rename it to old, and then rename the single player to what the other one was. It's harder to me explain, but if you watch what I'm doing on the screen, you'll see and understand what I'm doing. So I'm copying that, renaming it to old, and then renaming the one that I brought over from the single fire, right? You'll see the old ones don't matter, delete them. And now we can launch into the game, and our multiplayer shell should now work, but we'll have our single player base and our single player inventory brought over. And the only thing that remains from the original multiplayer game is the character that we selected at the beginning of the game when we created the multiplayer game. There you go. So you can see we have our single player inventory and our single player world, but our multiplayer character model. So I went from a white woman to a black man. Reverse Michael Jackson. Oh yeah. Anyways, hope that helps you guys out.